My next acquisition will probably be a bolt-on to something I already have going on, and it's probably going to be something in the flooring maintenance or flooring restoration. Maybe some sort of janitorial. I what I like to do is stick with commercial customers because
Yuri, thanks for coming on, dude. I'm really looking forward to our conversation. So, for people who don't know who you are yet, tell us a little bit about what you're up to these days. Maybe a little bit about some of the business buying you've done yourself.
yeah, well, my name is Yuri, and I bought three businesses in the past. That keeps me pretty busy for now, but I'm always looking for bigger and better things and moving forward, and just letting go of the smaller stuff and finding and acquiring bigger stuff all the
Mm-hmm.
time.
So, what was the first one that you ran through, and tell us kind of how you found it, maybe what that buying process looks like.
Also, how you got into buying businesses, like what was
Yeah,
leading you into that? Like, because not everybody's so young, actively has owned and purchased three businesses. So, before
Sure.
business one, like, what was the mindset, and what kind of got you into that? What was your background previously?
Sure. So my dad was a self-employed mechanic, so couldn't call him an entrepreneur, but he was always, winning his own bread and providing for the family on his own. So I guess growing up, he kind of spoiled me in a way where, in terms of freedom, he would always be able to take time off work, and we would go on hunting trips or road trips with the family. And growing up, I realized that a lot of my friends didn't really have that because their dad would be able to take 1 or 2 weeks off per year, and then they take a little vacation. And so growing up, I wasn't sure what exactly I wanted to do, but I knew it was something along the lines of owning my own business or being self-employed. And so when I was 15, I actually started my first business, and it was a window cleaning business. Um, and that went all right up until I realized that I don't want to be out in the Oregon rain when it's 40 degrees outside and I'm washing people's windows and I'm soaking wet and freezing, can't feel your hands at the end of the job. So I knew I always wanted to do something, I just didn't know what. And I guess I bought my first business shortly after we got married. And it was from a gentleman who I was working for. He was moving out of state, and I was his best guy at that time. And he was wanting to sell the business, but he really didn't know much. And so he offered it to a couple of his competitors, and they didn't really know much about buying businesses too. And they would come over and take a look at it and be like, well, I'm not so sure about this or not so sure about that. And I'm like, this is a good business. It doesn't make sense why they're not buying it, especially for the price he was asking. So
hmm
after two or three competitors said no, he just came to me and he's like, hey, I know you could do this. I'm willing to sell it to you. Full owner finance. He knew I didn't have much money, but he's like, he basically delivered the offer to me. He said, hey, if you buy it, I'll owner finance it the rest. You can pay it off to me whenever. And he was offering it to me for a fraction of the cost that he was offering it to the other guys. He said, just pay me off whenever. I need to move out of state, so here you go. And I said, great. It was like a godsend thing.
yeah,
Um,
hell of a deal.
yeah, yeah, very good deal. So I bought that. My wife was a little bit nervous about that, just because I had a little bit more background in business and she didn't. But she was a little bit nervous. But I told her, hey, we'll try it. If it doesn't work out, um, I can always go back to working a job. And
Yeah,
so,
hand him the keys back.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm losing absolutely nothing. I didn't even put down a down payment. Nothing. He just knew that I could do it, and
hmm
so he basically handed it over to me. And I told her, hey, as soon as this is going good, I'll pull you out of your job, and you'll come help me out with stuff. And she was a little bit nervous, but within a month or two, she saw that wow, this is going way better than we expected. And so I re retired her, I guess. So she came to work with me, and she helps me with a lot of the background stuff. So that was my first business.
So it kind of really just fell into your lap. You weren't necessarily out looking for a business
You
through
know,
your network. The opportunity just kind of
I was looking for a business in terms of I switched to that industry because I was going to buy a different location, and then that didn't end up working out. But I was a lot of the times people could look from the side and they're like, oh, look, that's just pure luck. But really, when you're the type of person that uh, is ready for an opportunity, the opportunities start coming your way.
Hmm.
If you're just out there
Yeah.
and you're never thinking about it, you're never wanting to go that way, it's very rare that an opportunity like that presents itself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a reason why he came to you with that deal because he thought you could do it. If you were just a guy just kind of getting by, not
Right.
really giving it your all, he's never going to offer that deal to you.
Right. So, uh, one piece of advice I give to younger people, they say, well, why would someone sell me their business? And I'm like, you're right. You need to become the type of person who someone wants to sell their business to, and
Yeah.
because they don't, business owners don't just want to sell it to anyone. They want to make sure it goes into a safe pair of hands, someone they can
Hmm.
trust, someone who will not just burn down everything they've built over the past 5, 10, or
Yeah.
20 or 30 years.
Especially if you're going to sell or finance it, because that's the
Yeah.
greatest risk point is if you screw it up, they get no money.
Right. Yeah.
And what industry was the first businesses? Was that the locksmith
The first,
company you
yeah,
owned?
that was the locksmithing company. That was the first one, and then after I bought it, I hired and trained a few guys and put them in place of me, and had sort of like low level management going on. I would still pop in here and there to check up on things, make sure everything is going well. But after a little bit, I was like, okay, well, this is fun, but I need something more to do. And that's kind of around the time when we were wanting to move to Florida. So we decided to move to Florida, and I found a business on Biz by Sell for sale, and it was also an older guy who was retiring, and he had a carpet and flooring supply store, and he actually sold the building to that, not the business, but the building. And with that business, he had a carpet and tile cleaning business. And he was wrapping things up and shutting things down. And so I kind of bought him at a point where he wasn't really making any money, but the name was still there. And I took it over and added some marketing and just some more infrastructure into that because his things were run very old fashioned. And I was able to turn that back around from not making any money to he was making about 4 or 5 grand a month, which is not a lot. And then I decided to sell it to some other people because
Hmm.
I've got my hands on actually the third business that I bought, and that was taking up more of my time.
What attracted you to the floor and carpet cleaning one?
Locksmithing is such a niche, and uh, it's such a hard industry to get good employees at because first of all, most people in that industry are probably in their 60s. It's not really a young people industry. Second, when that business, it was focused on all three aspects of locksmithing, so commercial, residential, and automotive. And it's really, really hard to train someone to be good in all of those areas. And for me, if I was wanting to scale that up to the next level, I'd have to first split it up and train guys in different little sections to
Hmm.
really get them to be good at one thing and then scale up. So coming from locksmithing, which was super technical, it kind of takes a long time to train people. I decided, hey, maybe I should try something simpler where it's easier to hire and train guys. Um, but I realized carpet cleaning is so simple that the overhead is also not that high. That the industry itself, the easier the industry, the more saturated it gets. So
Yeah, anybody could do it.
yeah, and because everyone and anyone could do it, and it takes you less than a couple of weeks to fully train someone, there's a lot of competition, and the quality of employees you get are also a little bit lower because the pay is lower. So you kind of have to find a balance between something that's, for me at least personally, I'm looking for a balance of something that's not too complicated and something that's not too simple. So what attracted me to, I guess, carpet and tiles is it's simpler, and I thought I could train, hire, and
Hmm.
scale it up faster. But with that comes its own shares of disadvantages, such as you're dealing
Yeah.
with different type of people. And
How many listings had you looked at before you found and moved on that one?
I looked probably at hundreds and hundreds. I wasn't sure exactly which industry I would go to, and so I was kind of looking and deciding as I was going along, and just trying to pick. And that one just kind of presented a good opportunity, and everything worked out with that. Um, but I knew I wanted something small where I could kind of get the feel of the industry to see if I want to stay in it or transition. And so that was the
Mhm.
second one that I bought.
Were you able to negotiate any sort of terms on this other two businesses you brought? Obviously, number one, the locksmith being complete seller note, but
Yeah,
the smaller one that you sold and then the one that you own now. Talk to us a little bit about how you
yeah.
structured
So
those negotiations.
sure. So the second business I bought I put about I think 60% down and financed the rest of it. It was a smaller amount, so it wasn't too hard to come up with that money. But he wasn't comfortable with financing more than that. Now, the third business I bought, I put about 30% down, and the rest, he actually approached me with that offer himself too. He said, "Hey, I'd be willing to sell this to you." And it was a guy I met through one of my other, so my carpet and tile cleaning business. That he was one of my customers. He met me through that. He's like, "Hey, this is your little business." I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, I got one I want to sell too, so but I just haven't found the right person." And I said, "Sure, let's talk." So we met up for coffee. He told me what he has going on, and it's a commercial marble restoration company. So we maintain and restore floors on a lot of commercial businesses and buildings here in the Tampa Bay area, and specifically with limestone and hard surfaces. And so he approached me and he said, "Hey, this is what I have. I haven't been able to find anyone who I'm willing to sell, but I like you and I want to sell it to you. I just need about 30% down and I'll owner finance the rest of it." So I went and took out a loan because I spent most of my money on buying the second business. So I went and took out a loan, gave him the down payment, and he's holding the note for the next 4 or 5 years of that business. And it's just kind of paying itself off.
Awesome. Yeah. So once again, being the type of person that someone wants to sell their business to, they seek you out because they think that, hey, this guy's getting after it. He seems like he
Right.
could handle my business.
Right, right. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
kind of like it reminds me of people that they say, "Hey, I want to find this and this and this type of person to marry, and they have to be this and this and this and this." But then when you look at them, they're not that type of person. So how would
Right.
you attract? How are you going to get this person when you're down here? You kind of have to
Mhm.
work on those things first, and once you become that person, then the opportunities will present themselves.
Yeah. So be someone worthy of having the business offered to you.
Yeah, yeah.
Were you making it known that you buy businesses, or is it just like because it seems like they're coming to you? How would they even know that you're open to doing something like that? Is that something where you let people know?
Well, at that time, I wasn't really, talking really much about it. I kind of just keeping it to myself, and I was thinking, I want to buy more businesses. Still trying to figure out what exactly I'm doing. I was still trying to figure out what I'm doing because I knew I wanted to own businesses, but I didn't know how, what, when, and
Hmm.
I was just moving forward through life and trying to do the best I can. And I think by being genuine, open person, who does good in his business, I think if you are doing good where you're at, the opportunities will come. And so, the one business, the second one, I had to go out and find, but the other two, they kind of just presented themselves to me.
Do you think you learnt more during the business buying process or the business selling process?
You learn a lot in both. I think learning during the business buying process is more beneficial to you, but it also depends on what size and uh, who you're selling it to. Whether you're selling to a private party, whether you're selling to a private equity group, because those are all going to be different types of negotiations and deals and structures. I definitely learned more about buying because I bought three, sold only one, and I think that's what I'm focusing on because to me that's more of an important skill right now. And when it comes time to start thinking of selling something, I'll be preparing for that as well.
Sure. And then how did you sell the second business? Give us a little information on like how you found the buyer, how you structured the terms. Were they pretty hard negotiations or did you mutually agree on something straight away? Just what you learned from that, kind of an overview as well.
Yeah. So the funny story with the second business that I sold is I ended up getting it back, and because when you're dealing with a small business, and I wasn't requiring a huge down payment up front. I thought, hey, I'm willing to present an opportunity to someone else because I felt really blessed. And I said, I think I posted it on Biz Buy Sell and Facebook Marketplace. And Facebook Marketplace is where I got a lot of action. Like people flooded my inbox saying, hey, I want to buy this and that. I think one thing I would have done differently now is require a bigger down payment. But I don't know if that would have necessarily changed with these guys specifically. They came in and put a down payment, and they were going to pay it off within the next 2 years. And so they took it over, then they invested some more money and updating equipment. And, so they invested quite a bit of money. And then I think they just realized that they don't want to do the actual work.
Were they in the industry already?
They've had, years of industry experience. Yeah. Um,
Interesting.
and so one thing I told them, I was like, hey, this is a turnaround business that I've turned around, but you got to keep the marketing in place and you got to keep things going. Otherwise, you're not going to be just busy enough if you turn all of that off. And they said, yeah, yeah. And then they turned off the marketing. And I asked him, because he started texting me and calling me. He's like, hey, we're not staying busy enough. I asked him, hey, what did you change? What did you change since I handed it off to you? Because I told him, if you don't change anything, if you just keep going with the way things are going, I know you're going to be, I even had a projected growth that he'll hit by the end of the year. And he said, no, we didn't change anything. Once they gave up and basically returned me the whole business, they said, hey, we don't want to do it anymore. I called the marketing guy and I said, hey, what did they change? He said, oh yeah, they changed this and this and this, and they changed up the strategies. And I was like, I spent thousands of dollars trying to figure out what's working for this specific business. If they just kept at it, they would have been at least double the growth of where I left it at. So I ended up getting it back and then trying to resell it and then getting it back again. So I kind of have it back now, but
Like Jumanji,
yeah, yeah.
just keeps
So
coming back.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's back in my laps, and I'm too busy to be taking care of it, so I'm just trying to get rid of it now.
Yeah, Adam Coffey, why sell a business once when you can sell it multiple times,
Yeah,
right? Not quite what he meant, but
I mean, sure. I mean, I've gotten down payments on it, and at this point, I've gotten some money out of it. If I get another down payment and then end up getting it back, I might cut my losses completely.
that could be a new strategy. You just keep selling it and then just
Yeah,
getting it back when they default.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, one thing really surprised me is how many people are all talk, but they don't do much. And one thing I had to learn is I've tried to help so many people out, but because this is my passion, this is what I love, and I'm like, hey, look, man, I could help you out. Do exactly what I did. I'll help you. Like, and then I start putting in some effort towards them, and I just see they're all action. They don't actually, when it comes time to doing the work or doing
Mhm.
anything, they're not gonna they're not gonna do it.
What's the Ronnie Coleman saying? Everybody want to be a bodybuilder, but nobody want to lift no heavy ass weight.
Ah, yeah, yeah. Nobody wants to break their back.
Exactly. No one wants to do the work.
Yeah.
Everyone wants the result.
Yeah, and I think a big part of that is there's a lot of online and e-commerce and online courses and stuff like that, and a lot of young people, I realize, have this fake perception of what the reality is, and
Hmm.
they have this online dream. I'm going to buy this, or I'm going to build this online brand, Shopify or courses or whatever, and all of those things are possible and all of those things are good, but there's so many people sitting there online telling them it's so easy. It's so
Yeah.
easy. Go and do it. It's going to be easy. You could sit on a yacht with Jaron in the Bahamas, and the money will just be pouring itself.
Hmm.
And it gets easier once you get the ball rolling. But regardless of which business you're starting, the first few years is going to be really, really hard work. And
Hmm.
if you're taking over a business, you're going to have to work. A lot of people just think they're not going to work at all.
Yeah, that's one of the things I wanted to touch on because you talked about how you took these business over, you're running them, you're growing them, and you say it kind of like just straight faced, like here's what I did, but that kind of glosses over all the ups and downs that is the life of entrepreneurship, right? And being the
Oh
owner,
yeah,
and
oh
always all the crap always rolls up to the top that you're dealing with the stuff that nobody else wants to deal with.
yeah,
So
yeah.
people, I don't think people talk about that part as much.
Yeah, yeah, and I think I like to give people a somewhat of a reality check, and I'm like, hey, you realize if you buy a business, there will be times where you'll be working weekends and evenings,
Mm-hmm.
and there will be times where you'll have to cancel your birthday or anniversary or whatever plans. I've had to
Mm-hmm.
cancel vacations because employees are sick or something else has come up. I've had to cancel a vacation to Hawaii actually, get the refunds for tickets and everything because I had to come in and fire my employee. I realized he wasn't doing a good look. He wasn't doing a good job managing one of my locations, and I literally had to.
You couldn't find him after the vacation.
I figured the way things were going, if I leave town for another week or so, I might come back to a bigger mess. So, people don't realize that, but like there's times I had to go and work till 11 p.m., physically finishing
Mm-hmm.
up jobs and projects and stuff like that. But everyone sees the good side of things when I'm chilling in Florida riding my moped to the beach. But
Mm-hmm.
there's times where even from here, I had to get on a flight, go back to Oregon, and grind some more just to make sure that my business is all right. So it's hard work. It's definitely rewarding. It has its challenges. To
Mm-hmm.
me, it has way more upsides than challenges. Just the freedom you get from that. But there's also times where you don't have as much freedom. You have to go back to square one and
Mm-hmm.
actually be doing the work sometimes.
Yeah, and not to mention all the ups and the downs too, right? Like you're riding high when things are working, and you're getting punched in the face sometimes, and it's down, and it's not just like
Right.
some smooth ride.
Right, right. Yeah, and there were months where I wouldn't pay myself because
Mm-hmm.
things would get tight or something wasn't working out or there's a big expense that we weren't expecting, and all of a sudden, I always made sure that I would pay my employees, and if there's enough, I pay myself. If there wasn't enough, I make sure they're paid, and I just scrape
Mm-hmm.
by until. But it's been good overall. But people got to realize that hey, there will be times where it's not all fine and dandy.
Yeah, my sister was looking at starting a business, and she asked me like, "Does it ever get easier?" And I thought about it for a while. And I was like, kind of, but not really, right? It's like it gets easier. Like I use the analogy of like the gym. Like if you go to the gym and you bench press 135, like it gets easier eventually to do 135, but then you're just going to go up to the next one and try to bench 185, and that's hard. And then once that gets easy, you just go to the next one. So does it get easier? Kind of. Certain things do, but then you're just on to the next more difficult challenge.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think.
your tolerance and capacity both increase.
Exactly. Yeah. You
Yeah,
just find in the next challenge.
Yeah.
I think it also depends on which goals you have. If your goal is to grow and progress and move forward, and build a bigger company, you're gonna have. I think overall it will get easier, but you're gonna have challenges, and the challenges are gonna be different than what your initial challenges are. So, if you decide to stay at a certain level, you might just be encountering the same problems over and over, and you might
Hmm.
get good at solving them, and they might be easier
Hmm.
for you. But if you want to grow and expand and pivot and change and catch up with trends and stuff like that, there will be different types of challenges. But I think one thing I had to learn and realize is I had to change a little bit of a as a person in terms of I used to stress way more about little things and try to make sure everything is perfect and try to uh, make sure everyone's
Hmm.
satisfied and everything gets done, and I won't go home until everything is perfect. But I had to realize, like, hey, this is business. You will never have it perfect. You will never fully catch up. There will always be more things to do. You will never, especially a
Hmm.
person who's growth minded. There will never be the feeling of like, hey, I've done enough. I've done enough, and like I'm chilling. So I had to learn how to go home and chill, even though it feels like I haven't done enough.
Hmm. Yeah.
Well, that's an interesting point. So, obviously being the business owner, you have a level of perfection and the standards because it's your name, your reputation. Where's the line of, not having it, there'll never be enough and hiring someone that can do something 70% as well as you, or their standards might not be as high as you? How have you found that in your businesses, so with staffing and.
I think for me, I had to realize like, hey, what are things I am willing to live with, and what are things I'm not willing. And if a project doesn't get finished up, and we're just down on manpower, or we don't have the right supplies that didn't come in on time, or someone is sick, instead of me saying, hey, let me go and do that and finish it up and make sure everything is done, I just have to be I had to look at it a little differently and think like, I've had my dentist reschedule on me because the doctor got sick. I didn't sit at home and get all mad and angry at him. And I'm like, hey, life happens. We'll just reschedule it from Wednesday to the next Friday, right? And I had to put myself in my customer's shoes, and I'm like, 98% of the time they're going to be fine. No one's going to die. No one's going to. It's not an emergency. Nobody's life is threatened. And if they choose to go with someone else just because I couldn't, do it, so be it. I'm sorry we couldn't help you out, but we had an emergency or something didn't work out. I just had to realize like, hey, almost everything is reschedulable. Almost everything is, you could push it back a little bit. We try not to, but if we need to, most of the time people are fine. If it's not going to affect your life in long term, so it doesn't really matter.
I was just going to say, I think it's just to the scale as well, being able to let go to some extent and then implement systems which are going to, carry your vision out when you're not physically there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, what's the saying? I think Dan Martell says that 80% as good done by someone else is 100% awesome. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
so
true.
it's like the first time you reproduce yourself, maybe they're only 80%, but as soon as you get the second person doing that 80%, they're already 160%. So even though they're not quite as good as you can have more of them. It's going to be a better result.
Yeah, yeah, and you have to realize that to grow, you have to let go of things. You just
Hmm.
can't do all of those things on your own. And sometimes we want things to be perfect, but they won't be, and you have to trust other people. I mean, that's what employees are for, right?
Hmm.
You bring them in, you train them, you pay them for that, and you trust them. And if you
Yeah.
do your part right, they should do their part right.
Yeah, I think I'm sure you've seen this, Yuri. I've seen it. I've seen it myself. But like as we're looking at these companies, usually like the bottleneck or like the cap on the company's growth, it pretty much always comes back to the owner, right? So like us as like the entrepreneur, everything comes back to us, and the business only rises to the level of our capacity.
Yeah, and that reminds me of I was talking to Vincent. You guys know Vincent,
Hmm.
great guy, and he was saying, hey, most people say, right? Everyone you go talk to anyone, and they'll say, hiring good help is hard. Finding good whatever industry you're in, finding good marketing people is hard. Finding good electricians is hard. And one thing that he said that kind of made me stop and think and change my opinion on that. He said, just go figure it out. And basically, in these are my words, I'm paraphrasing. He said something along the lines of, go figure it out so that it's not a problem. And then don't say, hey, it's hard finding. Go figure it out. Go figure out
Hmm.
how it is to find, like, where do you find good electricians if you're in that
Hmm.
industry? Where do you find them? How do you get them? Because they're out there. Union has a lot of them, right? There's
Hmm.
companies that have hundreds of them.
Someone's doing it. Yeah.
Someone's doing it. Just go figure out how they're doing it, and then don't use that as an excuse to not grow or move forward. Just
Right.
realize like you gotta change some things up and take accountability for that, and basically make the problem go away.
Yeah, that's one that I say sometimes with our team. If we have things like that, it's like, well, hey, this isn't a problem that's going to be going away anytime soon, so we might as well figure it out. Like, there's certain things. It's like this isn't going anywhere, so we either get stuck here or we push through it and find a way.
And there's a reason that only 7% of businesses out of the 33 million make $1 million revenue or
Yeah,
more. It's kind of the willingness to overcome these problems. I don't think anyone lacks the ability to do it. It's just I think it comes down to a mindset a lot of the time.
Yeah.
it's always the guy at the top.
Yep.
Yeah.
Love that. Well, Yuri, tell us a little bit about maybe your next couple months, like what you're working on. What do you got in the pipeline? Like, what's your vision for what you're moving towards now?
Yeah. So in my pipeline, I had a couple of deals that didn't work out yet. You guys know how it is. Sometimes you have something that looks
That's what
promising.
deals do.
Yeah.
Fish swim, birds fly, deals fall apart.
Yeah, and sometimes you get, I had a couple of people who said yes. I got them to the point where they were saying yes, I want to sell, and then when it comes time to either getting the financials to review or, hey, so are we doing this? You see they're kind of dragging their feet a little bit, and there's not much you could do about it if a person's not ready. If
Yeah.
they're not ready to sell, if they're not desperate, if their mud score isn't high, there's not much you can do. But you could follow up with them and wait, and eventually they'll
Mhm.
probably reach out to you first out of anyone
Yeah.
else because you've built that connection and relationship. So at the moment, I don't have any closings. but there's still a couple conversations I'm having. I'm still keeping my options open and still looking.
What are you looking for? Are you trying to add things to for the flooring or the marble restoration or?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna. My next acquisition will probably be a bolt-on to something I already have going on, and it's probably
Hmm.
gonna be something in the flooring maintenance or flooring restoration. Maybe some sort of janitorial. I What I
Hmm.
like to do is stick with commercial customers because I love the aspect of recurring revenue,
Yeah.
and so all of my contracts are either on monthly or quarterly maintenance, and you know. If I could find another business that has some, whether it's in janitorial or flooring maintenance or something along those lines, which I'm looking for, that would be a good bolt on to what I already have going on. So I'm guessing that would be my next one.
Very good. And you're looking in the very same area, like the Tampa Bay area, or are you expanding
You
your
know,
reach?
I was looking in the Tampa Bay area, but I've kind of, I wouldn't say exhausted all my options here, but I've done a lot of digging and I haven't found someone who's ready to sell here. So I also had to pass up on a lot of smaller deals that I just wasn't interested in just because of my
Hmm.
time involvement that would be in them. I'm looking for something that's not going to take up too much more of my time, something with management already in place. So I've opened up my, I guess, funnel to the whole, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, maybe the whole Southeast, maybe the Carolinas, but we'll see. We'll see.
Hmm.
I might get some more marketing done to get some more deal flow. I'm just kind of re-strategizing, re-pivoting, and going back at it again.
And then when you're buying businesses, like, do you have a end plan? Are you kind of one of the principles I really love is starting with the end in mind,
Hmm.
and which I think separates a lot of people.
Hmm.
A lot of people starting businesses and buying businesses, and they might not exactly have a plan of how they're going to exit because everybody's going to exit business one day, whether it be
Hmm.
retirement or an emergency or
Hmm.
a good offer comes along. Have you thought a bit about that, or are you implementing anything like that into the current businesses you're buying or
Yeah, I'm
running?
thinking the previous three that I've bought, they weren't. I wouldn't say I strategically planned to buy those, and for specific reasons. Those were just kind of good opportunities that presented themselves. Going forward, if I could just continue bolting on businesses that are in the commercial maintenance, janitorial type of stuff, and just roll it all up under one big umbrella with multiple contracts and get it past a certain point, maybe 5, 10 years down the road, and then exit. I think if I stay in a certain realm of one industry, I'm going to have a easier time selling it. If I just continue to bolt on and merge a lot of them together in
Hmm.
that certain industry. So uh, I think that would be my kind of rough draft of my end goal is to roll them all up and then sell them together.
Love it, being
Hmm.
intentional. Very cool.
Yeah. And then, of course, go sailing with you, Jaron.
Go sailing.
Naturally, kite
Yeah,
surfing.
Kite surfing. Yeah.
love it.
Mm.
Yeah. Another thing is, I was thinking if I have a business that's doing really well and I'm not super heavily involved with it for the next 5, 10 years, I might even consider keeping it. I don't know, and then eventually exiting and then restarting. I would need to figure out what I'm going to do after I exit before I exit
Hmm.
because I know a lot of people have a midlife crisis when they sell their business. They don't know what to do, and then they just go back to doing the same thing. So we'll see where I'm at, how I'm feeling.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, if you build a business that that is meant to be sold, then it's actually usually one that's not that bad to hold on to either.
Right, because that means it's a really good business.
Exactly.
Exactly. And depending on who's buying it, they might want you to stick around and run it. You can, diversify your assets.
Yeah,
Take that of a payday now, roll over a little equity, keep running it,
yeah,
and then, like you said, sell again.
yeah. Sell it
That's
again.
that's his motto. Sell it again.
Yeah,
Sell it
yeah.
again.
Awesome, man. Yeah, well, this
Awesome.
has been a lot of fun. I know we could. I'm sure we could chat about this all day for another hour or two or three. But yeah, I think this was really helpful. It was really cool to talk to someone who's been in on both sides and multiple times and kind of seen a pretty wide array of experience.
Yeah, I mean, what I have going on is so small compared to what a lot of other guys that I've talked to have going on. So it's it's I I really feel like, oh wow, I did nothing compared to what other guys I talk to, and
Mhm.
they're doing real business. My stuff is like this small, compared to, but it's experience, and you got to start somewhere. And for a lot of people, it's the few small things, then you progress, and as long as you don't stop. But yeah, it's been really good chatting with you guys, catching up about all of this. Um, yeah, I'm excited for all of us because I know we all have big plans, big goals.
And where can listeners reach you if they want to, pick your
Yeah,
brain about some flooring
give us your
needs?
OnlyFans.
Well, my my OnlyFans they're gonna have to pay for. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm on Facebook, and I'm on LinkedIn, and then yeah, they could also get a hold of you guys and get my phone number. Um, but yeah, Facebook and LinkedIn.
Sweet, man. Well, yeah, thanks again for coming on. We appreciate your time. Thanks for changing locations and making it happen.
Yeah, yeah, of course, of course. Sorry for the inconvenience.
All good, man. It was worth it.
Well,
Awesome,
nice
dude.
chatting with you guys.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, of
Talk
course.
soon.